pretty well decided what we were going to do. She ran to me at one point and jumped, and I caught her, and she slid down my body, and we kissed. That was my idea. And when I saw it, I thought, somebody has got to offer me the part of James Bond.
That's all I ask of you.
As Pop's answer to 007 was soaring up the charts, over at Her Majesty's, designers were grappling with the problem of how to fill the stage during the big masquerade scene, the masked ball at the Opera House.
The masquerade scene really calls for an awful lot of people. We knew we didn't have hundreds of people, so Maria thought of using dummies.
The actual stairways folded up the back wall has to be brought into the deck on chain hoists, and then all of these dummies which are suspended in the wings are brought in to augment the numbers on the staircase itself.
I knew the only way we'd get away with the dummies was if I made the real people talk to them and flirt with them, so that in the end, you, as an audience, you're thinking, hold on, are they there or aren't they?
The magician Paul Daniels was brought in to sprinkle some of his magic.
My best design was not accepted by the director. He had his image, fine, whereby the Phantom would come down singing Masquerade, and then the whole costume and the stick would twirl up into the air, and he would not be in it, despite the fact he'd been singing. But the director wanted him to be seen to go down to the underworld, and they had this huge trapdoor, which I reduced a bit. Well, I reduced a lot, because magicians know about trapdoors, don't they?
You will sing for me!
Other wacky ideas were tried and tested.
Hal was fixated with rats with red eyes. He dragged these fucking rats backwards and forwards across the stage. We were hysterical. But whilst he was fixated on his rats, Maria was fixated on her white horse. This white horse was coming down, descending to the lair. Well, the thing went sideways, the thing went backwards. You could see the arse end of the horse.
And all it ever did was stand there and stare into the wings, and Hal said it looked as though it was watching a show that was much more interesting, much better, somewhere in the wings.
Early on, it was almost Phantom of the Menagerie. We'd even thought about a real elephant at one point, but that easily got squashed. But we did try doves flying across the roof scene.
I thought how gorgeous it would be if we go to the roof of the Opera House and white doves flew as we revealed the roof. And it is a gorgeous idea. But the dove flew right into the house and had to be retrieved at the end of the evening.
By the time we'd repeated this exercise about 6 times, I think Hal was tearing his hair out. He decided it just wasn't worth it. Cut the doves, cut the doves. I think they started, shitting on people's heads and what have you. It's just not very nice, so they went.
The horse, the rats, the pigeons.
On the 30th of September, previews began. The public's first opportunity to see the show before its official opening. All eyes were on the other star attraction, the massive chandelier, which had taken weeks to build. Not surprisingly, the local council wasn't that keen to let it fall over the heads of the audience.
I was always incredibly nervous because you thought, well, if they end up saying, no, you can't have this, you actually haven't got a show.
It really wasn't until the first preview, which the authorities allowed us to do, and they saw the show, and we all sat beneath it as it came down, and they went, oh Oh no, fine. It's all okay. The show's great. Do it.
We're all absolutely terrified that the chandelier was going to fall into the pit. This occupied my thoughts completely. We were told it could not come in the pit. Categorically, it couldn't come into the pit.
From where you were sitting, could you see the chandelier fall?
I could see it. I could see Mike Reed conducting that show, and the person who was most terrified of that chandelier was the conductor. And when it came down, he'd be conducting like this.
I remember I used to have to duck because he used to come right over my head. And the first time it happened, I thought, this is gonna be a bit close. And he would always miss, but, you know, just.
But then, disaster struck. On the second preview, fact met fiction, as just like the show's diva Carlotta, the leading lady lost her voice.
Sarah got sick. Someone came running and saying, we have to cancel the first performance, the matinee. And I said, no, we don't. Let's not. I don't want to do that. Put Claire on.
Sarah's understudy and alternate was Claire Moore.
And I'd had no rehearsal. I didn't even have any costumes or a wig, so I had to squash. I remember there was a little review and it said Claire Moore had to squeeze herself into Sarah Brightman's pint-sized costumes. Not to mention I had to dance in them and I had to be able to breathe. So on all counts, it was a bit of a challenge. I remember standing in the wings and the announcement, ladies and gentlemen, due to the indisposition of Sarah Brightman, and the rumble started in the theatre, and I'm standing in the wings with my knees knocking. The role of Christine will be played by Claire Moore, and there was just this, well, horror sound. That was a horrible moment. And I just thought, well, I just got to go on and do my job.
This fantastic voice came out. You know, we hadn't heard a thing. She was a fraud. She was a fabulous Christine.
And I will never forget that night. In fact, emotional recall. It just, even now, 20 years later, it's just, if I'd never worked again, I would have that night.
The following night, Sarah was back on stage.
Sarah came back early.
Yeah.
Who knows why? Miraculous recovery.
The other star clocked in every day after lunch to begin the laborious process of getting ready for the evening show.
The more it built, the more it appeared, the more you felt the character emerging. By about 7 o'clock, I'd be all ready and done and dusted. I like to be on my own. I like to get the costume on and just think about the man, keep calm. The outside world didn't exist, and I took it quite seriously.
When he gets into a part, he is that part. Can you imagine having to live with the Phantom backstage the entire time? Yeah.
It took over 2 hours to get the Phantom ready for his big entrance, which comes in the lair scene in the first act. For this, Maria Bjornson had gone to town, with a gondola zigzagging through the lake as candles rise out of the mist.
This is the journey sequence, which I think is probably one of the most spectacular theatrical effects in existence today. Many people involved in the sequence, people in the basement turning winches.